Hello and welcome to this week's reading blog. I read a total of this many books this week. So this week I've decided to do something different in terms of how I'm picking my books. I am choosing from my TBR, but I'm choosing to read the highest rated books according to Goodreads and the lowest rated. I thought that would be a bit more fun and something different. So the first one that I'm going to read is, I'll just go grab it. It is Good Night, Your Holistic Guide to the Best Sleep of Your Life by Julia Blohberger and Ruth Nita. So this has been given a rating of 2.75, which is that's not very good, you know? So we'll see how it goes. Maybe it's not that great, but I just saw it at my library, so I thought, let's give it a go. But that is the lowest rated book. And I'm going to follow that up with Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. That's got a 4.52 from hundreds of thousands of reviews. So that's pretty phenomenal. And that's sci-fi. So I've got actually a decent amount of genres too. I've got a lot of fantasy, some sci-fi, some nonfiction, some romance, and some murder mystery. So I'm actually excited this week. Something different. I needed something because I was just not picking, I was not picking great books. Last week was all threes pretty much. So I wanted to shake things up a bit. Today I'm going on part 2 of my date with Mr. Architect. As you know, that did not happen yesterday, so I decided to give him another chance. And look, Eddie's all down to, he had a great phone voice and he sounded sincerely sorry. I do believe that he just did forget to put it in Google Calendar. I have done that myself, forgotten to put appointments or catch-ups in the calendar, and if they're not in my calendar, I don't remember. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt and we'll see how that goes. I am home. Okay, so when he came in, he gave me a voucher for a hot springs for $100 to apologize for having forgotten about our date the other day. So that was a very, very nice touch. So there's no bad blood, you know what I mean? It's okay. So I thanked him for that. That was very sweet. He was very remorseful that he'd forgotten. He was lovely. He was as his profile suggested, so he looked the same. We had some great conversations, so it was very easy to talk to, but there was just no chemistry for me. Like straight away I thought, oh, we could be friends. I wasn't feeling a romantic connection. With me, because I am demisexual, sometimes it takes a long time for me to know that. I have to actually really get to know a person before I even know, could I be attracted to him? So he could be someone that I could eventually have an attraction to. That is the way sometimes I am designed. People that I didn't have anything with initially, after we became friends for a long time, I did have those feelings. But in this situation, I don't know, I just, based on our life experiences and everything else, I just felt like it wasn't quite the match that I'm looking for. He's definitely someone I could date, but I am sort of looking for someone that just really straight out the gate feels like a kindred spirit. I think that's the only way I can sort of try to describe it. So even though we had similar opinions about a lot of things, but also differing opinions, particularly politically. So that's a hard one when they support a leader that has implemented policies that have negatively impacted me personally. I was like, oh, okay. But I can still respect different people's opinions and stuff. So like I said, the communication was excellent. Even when we were coming from contrasting beliefs and opinions, we still, you know, respected each other's opinions. So that was there. But yeah, I don't know, there was just something missing, you know? And I guess a spark, but like I said, sometimes I don't always have a spark. It's something that comes later for me. But just an inner knowing that there's possibly a better match out there for you. There's possibly someone that you could spend more time with growing. So I have a feeling this relationship, he was someone, so he's older. He was 44, so 7 years difference, which is, like I said, I don't mind that at all. I would actually prefer an older dynamic. Never been married, but I always ask people about previous relationships and how long did they last and what was the factor that ended, you know, causing the relationship to end. And from what I ascertained, he's someone that, and I respect that, he reaches a point where he's like, well, if the person feels stifling to him in any way in terms of his personal growth or whatever else, he's he ends a relationship. So he hasn't had any long-term relationships. I think that they all seem to be around a year long. And like I said, that's fine. I absolutely agree with, if it's not working, it's not working. But I just had this feeling like it would be a similar situation for us, in which there wouldn't be a relationship that I would be with someone who would grow older than me and be like for a few years at most and then part ways. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just not looking to just be in a relationship. So if this was someone that, if I was in that mood, then I'm like, let's just date and see where it goes. This is someone that I could do that with. But I don't know, I'm trying to find my person. As like sort of fairy tale romancy as that sounds, I just feel like if I met someone who really resonated with me on all levels, and like I said, who I felt was a kindred spirit and who I just felt a connection to, I think it's possible to have that. And that's what I'm looking for at this moment in time. You know, if I was 5 years into this dating journey and I hadn't found someone like that, then this architect dude is someone that I would be like, all right, let's give it a go with this person. Yeah, I'm just listening to my instinct. Do you know what I mean? My mind is trying to be like, oh, they've got enough, you know, they've hit enough things that, you know, there could be some compatibility here. But my instinct straight away, it's just, as soon as I saw them, I was just, and like we said hello, like within the first like couple of minutes, I was just like, no, it's not them. So don't try to convince yourself that it is. Like, I had to tell my brain, don't try and make me, you know, commit to this when I'm feeling intuitively that it's not for me. So I don't know. I'd be willing to be friends. I'm always open to making more friendships, but I have yet to meet people on dating apps that are interested in just being friends. I've made one, but every now and again he tries to, you know, suggest hooking up. And I'm like, okay. So it's always there on the back of the thinking, like, maybe one day she'll say yes. And it's just like, no, it's always going to be no. There will never be a sexual relationship between us. But my ex seems to be able to do it. Almost every woman he goes on a date with ends up being his friend in the long term. Like, how are you doing this? How are you collecting all these amazing women? I'm jealous. I'm jealous. Throw one of these women my way. I want another friend, you know? But yeah, so it was a lovely date. We chatted for like 3 hours. But yeah, it's harder to send that text to people like this that you have such a easy communication and dialogue with. And I could see that when you know that they find you attractive, you can see it on their face. So it sucks when I'm the only person that's just like, no, it's not for me. I feel bad about it when it's nothing that they've done. You know, it's just, I just feel like it's, yeah, you're not the right person for me, but there's nothing that you've done wrong. It's just a feeling, you know. It's hard to say that, but I gotta do what's right for me. And to be honest, like I said, I really don't actually have the energy right now for someone. But that being said, I think if I met the right person, they energize me. I don't feel drained. So that's another telling factor. Like, if I'm around certain people, do they energize me, or do I feel spent, or do I feel neutral? So I have 3 different things. Some people make me feel neutral, some take my energy, some give me energy. So I think at this point in my life, if I was to be in a relationship with someone, it would have to be someone that I feel energized after our like engagements with. And this person didn't drain me, left me neutral. So I was neutral with him, but yeah, I just don't want to, I don't know, invest energy in that. So I'm looking for just a bit more at the moment. Yesterday's date, Mr. Tarot, not even Mr. Tarot, Mr. I read energies, drained the living out of me. So much so I almost didn't go today. I was like, oh, but I didn't want to bail on him. Could you imagine? He forgets me and then I'm like, sorry, I'm not coming today. But yeah, anyway, that's done. Now I'm looking forward to, she goes, I see what they do. You see, and now she's going to join in too. Some kitten play. I'm looking forward to getting into my comfy, cozy clothes and starting to read. So I'm going to start with the worst rated. Maybe I should start with the highest rated, but I think I just wanted something easy to read because I'm a bit mentally exhausted after having such a long discourse. But I have to also prepare myself. I think I'll do it tomorrow. Message everyone that I did start conversations with to let them know that I am going to go MIA. And I'm going to quit the dating scene for a while, and that I hope they find who they're looking for. I just don't want. I might do it tonight. I don't like leaving people in limbo. You know, I like to let people know always where they stand. So I don't want to waste any more of the time. I think I will send people those messages today, but I need to have some downtime first. So I'll catch you later, guys. Okay, so I just finished reading Good Night, Your Holistic Guide to the Best Sleep of Your Life. So this was rated under 3 stars. I think it was 2.75. I don't agree with that. I think it's a 3. It's a solid 3. Does struggle with insomnia. Was a chronic insomniac. I've been put on many medications. Nothing worked. So I've had to really hone my bedtime routine and figure out the causes of my insomnia, because I even did sleep studies where I slept overnight in labs and I just had spontaneous arousal, which means my body was just waking up with no known causes. This book is pretty good. So it does have holistic practices. So they do include things like yoga, breath work, crystals, essential oils, all that sort of thing. But they do quite practical tips that I actually haven't read about in other sleep books. For instance, they say, reconsider your mattress. Make sure your mattress is the right pick for you. Here are some types of fabrics that allow the body to be cooler, because obviously the cooler your body is, the better sleep is. So these are things that are really practical that I haven't heard mentioned in other books before. They also include things like certain foods that help with sleeping, whether it's because they have melatonin or other properties in them. They also say another reason maybe why you're not being able to fall asleep is because you don't feel safe or you have anxiety. And here are some things to do to help with feeling safe at night, going to sleep, to help with anxiety. So I thought it was actually pretty decent. It had a whole like sort of smorgasbord of things to help with sleep, whether more holistic and woo-woo to just more practical. So I don't see why it's bad. It also had a lot of workbooks and things to journal and things to consider, like what are some things that could be affecting my sleep in this way. So they talk about obviously, technology, circadian rhythms and things like that. But as well, they'll talk about moon cycles and other more, alternative ideas. So I think they hit both realms pretty good. There's also sleeping track worksheets, which I thought were actually pretty decent. So in these ones, for instance, they get you to log the time of your last meal, of your caffeine intake, your alcohol intake, your water intake, what rituals you have done, sleep aids taken, time in bed, time you fell asleep, did you wake up during the night, how many minutes were you awake, number of bathroom visits, final wake up time, were there nightmares, total hours of sleep, and your rested feeling. So I think it's actually really good. It gives a lot of basis points to start up with and things to do. They even say make sure your room's clutter free, because the less clutter in your room, the more relaxed you will feel. So there's psychological viewpoints in this, there's holistic, spiritual viewpoints, there's dietary, nutrition, scientific viewpoints. So it's not in depth. It's just very quickly. It's like, hey, legs up the wall can help with this. Weighted blankets help with this. Massaging your feet or showering at night helps with the body temperature and helps with this. So it's very brief, but I think it does the job. It's like, try them out. Try this out, try that out. Use the worksheet, see what worked, what didn't work, what things all work together. But I think it's actually really good. I might even give it a 3.5. Like I said, it's not in depth, but you don't need to really read up all the scientific facts of why showering at night might help you fall asleep, or why not consuming alcohol at night will be better, benefit your sleep, why having a dark room. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, hey, dark rooms help. Try it out. Hey, breathable bed sheet fabrics help regulate your temperature. Try it out. Just like, you know what I mean? All these sorts of things. Hey, some people benefit from drinking, tart cherry juice at night. Try it out. So they don't mention medications in this, so there are no sleep medications prescribed, some pharmaceuticals described in this, so it's more natural. These are all things that you can just implement immediately on your own. But I thought it was decent, yeah. So I'll give it 3.5, because I'm like, yeah, all of these things are fantastic that they mentioned, and I've done them all, and I know what works for me. But I think it's, when you're trying to start out, this is not overwhelming. It's information that's just really accessible, easy to absorb, and feels doable. Like, I'll try this one out tonight and write, I'll practice these ones and write these activity sheets out and see what worked, what didn't. So I think this is a great starting place, where sometimes, delving into the other ones, which can be quite heavy text-wise in terms of research and scientific analysis and everything else, and don't really just like, where do I start? What do I do? Like, this is just like, pick your way through this. Try that out. How did that work? Yes, no? Move on to the next. Yeah. I thought it was good, and it was definitely better than what it's been rated. I apologize if my voice is hoarse. I've been filming my monthly wrap-ups for both of my channels, So I am already so talked out, but I need to catch you up with how I've been going this week. So as you know, I decided this week that I was going to read books that were the lowest rated on my TBR and the highest rated of my TBR. And I've read all the ones that I've picked for that already by Thursday, I know. So I might just read my library books after this to finish off this week's reading vlog, but let me tell you about the other books that I read. So as you know, I started off with The Good Night, which was rated lowly, and I gave it a 3.5. Sorry if I'm a bit low. Low. Is that awkward if I'm that low? My knees are killing me. I have to sit cross-legged for a bit. I gave it 3.5 stars, so I definitely rated it much higher than it was. So the next book I read was from the highest rated, and that was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, which is a book where people discover that these little black dots are eating the sun, and it's going to cause the world to, be destroyed. So they get a scientist to figure out what these little dots are. One dude who's now a high school teacher, they get him and him alone to experiment with these particles. It was just the way it was written. It felt like it was just a transcription of a cheesy sci-fi movie. I know this is a dude who's written The Martian. It had those kind of vibes. I didn't like the main character. I guess you're supposed to like him, but I don't find him very likable. It was just so unbelievable and, like I said, cheesy. The dialogue, the way the book was going, the pacing was just insane. It didn't feel like a fleshed out novel. And at a certain point, I'm like, this is not for me. I'm going to rate this low. So that book, that person's writing style, we're not a match. So even though that got a 4.5, yeah, I DNF'd it. The next book I read was Cruel Illusions. Cruel Illusions has a rating of 3.63. I DNF'd this book. So this book was supposed to be a Buffy meets Caraval, and I get it. I get it because it hits you on the head with it. They've got characters named Xander and Willow, and they actually reference Buffy in it. So you've got a girl who believes her mother was murdered by a vampire, and she decides to go be a vampire slayer, and she does that by like, I'll go to the gym and I work out a bit, and I carry a wooden stake in my backpack. Okay, bro. So this also had magicians though in there, and there was like magic involved, but I just didn't like it. I didn't like the way it was written. The main girl is in foster care with her brother. The foster mum is so kind. She goes out of her way to like buy her clothing. She notices clothing is ready. She's so kind. She makes the food that they like. And the girl is mean and nasty to her, all because it's like, well, she's just a foster parent, so I don't want to get attached. And I'm just like, you were mean. You're just being mean. You were like crushing this woman who's trying her hardest and is doing this nice thing and is actually a good person and isn't abusing you. Do you know what I mean? It's like, just snap out of it. Snap out of it and do the best for you and your brother by being nice to this lady. Like, it's the least you can do. So at that point, I couldn't read it anymore. Hello. She's so cute. Okay, so then I read Outlive, The Science of Longevity. This has a rating of 4.48. Quite high. I did read it. I decided not to rate it. If I was going to rate it, I'd give it a 3. So this dude was a former oncologist and then is now in the field of longevity. It felt a lot like a memoir. And I don't read longevity books to read memoirs. I want to just read about science and longevity. So this was 500 pages, could have been cut way down. Like I said, I didn't want to read about this guy's life. I didn't really care. Because he is coming from an oncologist's point of view, there is a lot of drug-related longevity. And he does admit that he is funding some of the research for these drugs, such as rapamycin and metformin. So I'm like, side-eyeing that a little bit. And then he just says pretty much everything the same. The main foundations of longevity are diet/nutrition, sleep, exercise, and mental and emotional well-being. So how much stress you're under and the relationships you have. So nothing new there really. And to be honest, he really doesn't go into sleep very much, considering that's the main component. So that got the shortest amount. I did learn one new thing, and that one new thing was that there seems to be a very strong correlation with grip strength and longevity. So the better your grip strength, the less likely you'll succumb to one of the 4 horsemen, like cancer or, Alzheimer's, dementia, all that sort of stuff. So grip strength, guys, work on the grip strength. And like in terms of exercise, it's the same thing. Don't just focus in one area. Don't specialize in one area like cycling or whatever. Make sure you've got strength, you've got mobility, you've got flexibility, and you have endurance. Like, you need all 4. So do things that increase your fitness in all those areas. But anyway, and the main thing for diet, Mediterranean seems to be best. So moving on. Then I read Shady Hollow. So this was rated 3.84. I DNF this book. So this, look, it has a very cozy atmosphere. It's very Wind of the Willows. It's about animals, and there's been a murder in their town. So you've got like a hummingbird who's a gossip, and you've got a fox who's a reporter, and a toad who's cranky. So they're all animals, and I just couldn't bring myself to care about any of them. And I don't know if it's because they were animals, like, because normally animals are my favorite part of a book, but I just didn't care about any of these characters. It just felt a bit too surface level. It didn't feel real, even though there was a murder. So I decided to DNF it because it's just not my thing. And then I read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, which has a 4.36 rating. I've given this a 4, which I know is low. I read Yours Truly, which is the second in the series, first, and I freaking loved that. That's a 5-star. This one I didn't love as much. It didn't give me the same feeling. And I think the main reason for that is because this was an insta-love sort of thing where they had sex on the first date. And I'm not a fan. I need the slow burn. I need the tension. I want the build-up. I want the flirting and the slight touches and the feeling their breath on your neck. I need that fire to be stoked into a burning inferno flame. I can't just go from the freezer into a sizzling pan. It doesn't work for me. So I think that was the big reason why it's a 4, not a 5. Because besides that, okay, so this book, I very much heavily resonated with the main woman. She's 37, I'm 37. Her marriage was my marriage. Her next relationship with this guy was very similar to mine too. I had an 8-year age gap. I'm 8 years older, whereas in the book she's 10. But it was also very similar, you know, romance-wise to me. So I was like, okay, that was my marriage, and that was how I felt. That was my relationship with my family. And then this was the guy that I went on to next. So I was like, is this my life? And they also have an in-joke with The Princess Bride. I have yet to find a romantic partner who loves The Princess Bride as much as I do, but with them like giving each other quips, you seem a decent fellow, it'd be kill you. I loved it. I live for it. I know it's so cheesy, but I love it when people just have a thing and it's their thing, and then they say and they use the quotes and it's the in-jokes. I love it. And like I said, with Abby Jimenez, I find her characters are relatable. Everything that they say and do, and all of their pop culture and everything else, I'm like, yeah, that could be in my life. I just find it very realistic. I have found with her female characters, so her men all seem to be like real perfect guys. Like, I like the second dude more than this one. But the women are the ones that seem to go and try and sabotage a relationship because of the trauma they've experienced in their past relationships. And I get it. That's something that did happen to me too. When you go from a relationship that was unsafe and everything else and traumatic, and then you go into one that's healthy, you keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. You don't trust it. You're terrified of being hurt again in the same way. And I admit, like, I did do that in the beginning. I did push my ex-partner away because I was just like, this can't be real. You know what I mean? Like, what's there's got to be some skeleton in your closet. There's got to be some, you know, thing. And there wasn't. But like, I know it's not fun to read about. I know that's what happened. I lived through it. I've done it. I get why we do it. And then it takes a while for you to believe, okay, well, the person just has to keep showing up for you. They have to keep showing that they're safe, that they're not going anywhere, that they love you, that it's, you know, and then you eventually do believe, and you're like, oh, and you relax and your nervous system relaxes and you're like, okay, this is a secure attachment situation. You know, it's a healthy relationship. There's communication. I can put my defenses down and I can relax here. But when you read about it, it's frustrating. You know what I mean? In books, you can't, like, it's so frustrating to read about. It's like, woman, what are you doing? Like, you're waiting for the shoe to drop, and because it hasn't dropped, you've taken off your shoe and you've thrown it. You've thrown it at the man. So that's something I can see too why a lot of people don't like, because it's frustrating, but like, yeah, it's realistic. That tends to be what happens when you've gone from a traumatic abusive relationship. You tend to do that in your next one, if it's safe and healthy. You just don't trust it. So I get that, but at the same time, not fun to read about. It's like, stop it. Stop hurting him. He's done nothing but good things for you. So yeah, so for me, I didn't love this one as much because I didn't love, like I said, that they fell into bed immediately and it just got into it too quick for me. And I need that build up. I need them to fall in love slowly, you know, and it didn't have that. So that's why I loved Yours Truly a lot more. But it was so fun seeing Brie in this too, because I love Brie. She's also got her own issues. But yeah, it was still fun. I loved it. Like I said, Abby Jimenez is definitely my #1 contemporary romance author, and I will read everything that she puts out because I just have a good time and I feel validated. I feel seen, you know. And then I read Wild Beauty, and this got a 3.63. So, okay, this is a lot of vibes, guys. This is more the feeling. There's flowers for days. It has a dreamlike quality. It's just like a long dream, and you're not sure if you're awake or not, because it's not too out there, but it is kind of out there. So this book is very heavy on the magical realism, but there is actually magic involved. I'm going to be honest, it's very slow. It's very flowery language. Why did I persist? Because I knew there was some deep, dark secret that was going to come to light. And I just wanted to find out what it was. What is really going on in this town? In this town, you've got this family of women. There's always 5 daughters born into each generation. And you've got the grandmothers, the mothers, and the daughters. And every time a woman in this family loves a man, he ends up vanishing. The land takes him. And in this case, the 5 granddaughters are all in love with a woman. So like, is this curse going to take or is it not? But then one of the girls falls in love with a man who mysteriously appears on their property and doesn't remember anything about his past. He has amnesia. So it's a bit of a twist. But yeah, it had enough to keep me going till the end. I've decided to give it 3 stars. It is a 3-star book. I am giving it less than what it got. So in the case of all of the lowest rated books, I rated them all lower or DNF'd them except for the Goodnight book. That was the only book that I felt deserved a higher rating. With the other books, Project Weir, DNF'd it, did not like that book at all, can't understand its 4.52 rating. Then we had the Outlive, Science of Longevity. I've given it really a 3. It's got a 4.48. There's better written books out there. That being said, I've read a lot of books on longevity. It's one of my favorite subjects. And I feel like so many have been better done. But like, I guess if you've never heard about longevity before, you'd be like, oh, this is interesting. But it was too heavy on the pharmaceutical drugs angle as well for me. Then I read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. So this was 4.36 and I've given this a 4. So I did give this one also a lower rating. But that's just because, like I said, I'm not into the sleeping together on the first date. And this was a lot more heavy too on the medical practitioner angle. I never really watched any of those shows like Grey's Anatomy. I don't like stuff set in hospitals and that. That's not my cup of tea. So that is a downside of the Abby Jimenez series, is that they all seem to be involved in the medical industry. And I'm just not interested in that in general. Now, and the last book in this one was Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. This got a 4.32 rating. I'm giving this a 3.5. This was, okay, so this book, you've got these 2 characters who grew up together. They were best friends from the get-go. They pretty much fell in love. And then it goes to modern day and you find out they haven't spoken for 11 years. Why? Okay, so first off, I have to tell you that they don't tell you the why until the very end. And this is the issue I've had with the book, because the why really peed me off. Like, really peed me off and made me so angry. So before that, I was loving the ride. It's very easy to read. The writing's not phenomenal, but it's just one of those very easy to consume books. I don't particularly love reading about teenagers banging. Like, it does give me the ick a little bit. Like, talking about how hard his penis is. I'm like, oh, that's a 17-year-old. Don't want to read about it, but I get it. I could stomach it because she was like reminiscing about the past as an adult. So I'm like, okay, you're an adult now and he's an adult now. So that's a thing that also dropped the rating for me, because it's like, oh, I don't want to read about teens and sex. But you find out like why they fell in love and everything else, and that was very sweet. And you go to modern day and she's in a loveless relationship with her fiance, and he's got a child, and the other dude just runs into her and he's just like, can we talk, please? Like, you haven't spoken to me for 11 years. I know what I did was bad, but shouldn't we have at least had a conversation? So before you get to the reason, you do start to like side-eye the chick. Like, 11 years, you just went radio silence. Whatever he did, like straight away you just think he's cheated on her. It's like, you didn't even have a conversation? You didn't even let him hear it? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, wouldn't you let him have it? It's a bit, you like, why did she just go cold turkey? And then you find out at the end why. And I'm not happy, Jan. I'm really not happy, Jan. Look, I'm going to say spoilers here because I do have to verbalize it. If you don't want to see the spoilers, skip to the next part where the spoilers end, because I have to take. So what happened 11 years ago? So this girl, her mother died when she was 8. Very traumatic. It hit me in the feels. And you find it straight away. And her father's such a lovely person. And it tears you up inside that this beautiful mother and beautiful wife were taken away from these 2 people. So it was just her and her dad. Okay. And then this boy that she lived next door to, Elliot. So what happened was her and Elliot was her first everything. First kiss, first love, first real true best friend, first person that she lost her virginity to. Okay, and she was the first person he also sat with. But anyway, so they did this thing, and then he's on New Year's Eve at this party, and she's with her dad, and he calls and he's like, I wish you were here. And she's like, I wish I was there too. And he's like, do you want to get married? Let's get married. Like, you're my person. She's like, pretty much like, okay. So they had this conversation where they're basically agreeing to be, to marry each other. All right. So she says goodbye, and she's like upset and sad. And Dad's like, what's wrong? She's like, I feel like I need to be with him. Like, it feels wrong to be here. So he's like, go. Get in the car, go to him. So she goes to him. She doesn't ring him to let him know. She's just going to go and surprise him on New Year's Eve. So she rocks up at this house at party that he's at, and she goes up to his room, and he's there naked with his dick out, and on top of him is a girl that used to also be his best friend. So there was another girl called Emma, and she was also his best friend until she came along. I forgot what this girl's name is. Until she came along and replaced her. But this previous best friend is also a girl that he had hooked up with, hadn't had sex with, but had made out and done stuff too. But both of them were naked in bed. It's very clear they boned. So she runs out and she leaves, and she never talks to him again. And you just think, okay, really, you didn't talk, but this is what happens. So when she leaves, she calls her dad. She's in tears. She's beside herself. He's like, honey, I'm coming. On his way to her, he dies. I can't even, so at 18 years of age, she finds the person that she loves the most having cheated on her with another woman on New Year's Eve after having just said, like, I want to marry you. And then her calling her father and him coming to her causes him to die. So I understood. I'm like, fuck this guy. You know what I mean? Like, look, and I thought maybe there's a reason. Maybe it's not what it looks like. He did have sex with Emma. His excuse was that he was so drunk, he thought it was her. He thought that she'd come and he was having sex with her. I am not someone who drinks. I don't drink. And the biggest reason for that is because I have seen myself in friends and family. People do things while drunk and have no recollection of doing them the next day. And I'm just like, at the end of the day, you are held accountable for your actions because you chose to drink so much that you were no longer in control of your actions. Do you know what I mean? So I don't like the whole, I was so drunk, so it's not really my fault. I didn't know what I was doing. That doesn't fly with me. It's like, if you made the choice to drink so much that you now couldn't control what you did still matters. Like, it's not like, oh, it's erased. Like, it doesn't matter. I was drunk when I did it, so it doesn't count. That doesn't fly with me at all. At all. So I don't care that he thought he was banging his girlfriend. You're that drunk that you can't tell your girlfriend from another woman. That's on you, bro. And then the fact that it just, like I said, it distraught her so much that she called her dad, and her dad came and died as well. I couldn't go back to that guy. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't do it. I would always look at him like, you did cheat on me. I had unprotected sex as well with this other girl that you'd already been hooking up with that you probably shouldn't have been hanging around. Let's be real, okay? Like, you probably shouldn't be hanging around her anymore. And then my dad dies as a result of it. I'd be like, nah, I gotta meet someone new that I don't have this absolute train wreck of a history with. But it's made you feel like, oh, it's a love story. They've overcome it and now they're together. And I just got so angry. I literally put the book down, and my ex-boyfriend was here, and he's just like, your face is like, what's wrong? Like, what did you just read? And I'm just like, I'm trying to digest this whole book. You go trying to find out, like, what was this one event? And then you find out this event, but you find it out after she's decided she's going to be with this guy and they're going to have a happily ever after. And I'm like, no. Oh, I can't stand, like, people make mistakes. Look, I get it, but I'm the sort of person that I've stayed with someone who was unfaithful. They ended up being repeatedly unfaithful. So I know maybe there's some people out there can have one mistake where they sleep and they'll never do it again. But for me, like, the trust is broken. At the end of the day, I'm never going to cheat on my partner, ever. I'm never going to get drunk and do something and cheat on them. Like, it's whoever dates me, that's not going to ever be a thing they have to deal with. And therefore, I would like to date someone that also never cheats on me, regardless of the circumstances. They just never cross that line. So I don't like books that have cheating, romance books that have cheating. It doesn't, like I said, maybe it's because of my own personal history. I don't like it. I'd rather have a romance book where neither of the partners was unfaithful to the other person. Like, you know, I read books like Daisy Jones and the Six, like, yeah, like it was a great read, but it involved infidelity, and I just can't look past it. I'll never read a book highly that has infidelity. I don't like it. You know what I mean? I know it's very much a real world thing. I've lived it. Don't want to read about it in fantasy, in fictional romance stories. I want to read amazing relationships. Yeah, they'll have their conflict, but I don't want the conflict to be infidelity or abuse, like physical abuse or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? No abuse, no infidelity in that relationship. That's what I need in a really good romance. So this book, yeah, I brought it down to 3.5. Before that, I was thinking this is going to be like a 4-star easy, maybe even 4.5. But then that happened and I was like, the dad died. Like, you stupid teenage boy. This man is dead now because of something that you did. Like, it's your fault. It's like not the girl's fault, it's his fault. So that sucked. So that was the last book. So I did rate that lower. So with all the books, I rated one of the lowest rating books higher and the other 3 I rated lower. And then with the high rated books, I didn't rate any of them higher than their average ratings. So it was an interesting sort of experiment. But it was a good way to like choose books for my TBR. I did like that. I didn't have to, because when I go and pick one and then it's bad, it's more disappointing because I chose to read that one out of the 50 that are on my TBR list. But it has also, you know, knocked some stuff off, which I'm glad about. So the other books that I'm going to read are the 2 library books that I have because I have to get them back. So I'm going to read those 2 before I do my recaps. Normally on Saturday or Sunday, I tend to finish off the week. Next week, I am planning on doing a Pride Month. Happy Pride Month. It's the 1st of June. I am bi and demi, and I wish everybody who's queer and all the queer allies a happy Pride Month. I'm going to focus on books that are queer or LGBTQIA. So I'm looking forward to reading those next week. But yeah, this week, the other 2 books I'm going to read, library books and whatever else takes my fancy. I also want to say in terms of my life, I got this gift today, this beautiful, stunning, phenomenally gorgeous, intricate piece of art that is hanging from my neck. It is called The Seductress, and it is by my internet YouTube friend, Rochelle, who is from Amethyst Ascension. I crocheted some bags for her tarot decks, not a big thing, and she gifted me this handmade necklace in return. Like, who got the better end of that exchange? This chick. Like, Rochelle, you spoiled me, but it's stunning. I'm going to wear it out today. I'm going to let it be in the world. I just want to say thank you. I am going to take myself out to a cafe today. I kept saying I was going to do this. I ended up doing it on dates, but I'm going to do it for myself. So I'm going to just go and visit all these cafes that have been on my like to-do list. Melbourne is really great in that we have a wonderful cafe culture. We have pretty decent cafes. So I just want to like start taking myself out to them. I always waited like to have a partner to go out for brunch or to wait for my girlfriends, but my girlfriends don't live close. They're very busy. They have their own amazing, you know, star lives, and we only see each other maybe once a month for a brunch. So I'm going to go take myself out today and have some brunch. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to bring a book. I'm going to bring a book with me to read. So I will catch you later, and hopefully I'll remember to, film my brunch today. Hello, let me update you on the other books I read this week. First off, this dress is by Reformation. So I read The Good Life, Lessons from the World's Longest Study on Happiness. And to sum it up, the finding was that the key to a good life and happiness are your relationships, those with your family, your intimate loved ones, and your friends. So this was based on a study of participants who started the study when they were 14 years old, and it's 70 years later, and it's followed them throughout their whole lives. So it does focus on those people in the study and their personal experiences. It was a long book for just a very short summary of just make sure you have good relationships in your life, and so you're not lonely. You'll live longer and you'll live a higher quality of life if you have really good communication skills and social skills with the people around you. And it just went on too long for me, and it was so hyper-focused on these particular people, you know? So I don't know, it wasn't really for me, but it was fine. It was an okay read. Then I read Happy Place by Emily Henry. So my favorite out of Emily Henry's books was definitely Book Lovers. That one was my favorite. In this one, you were following a couple who were going on a getaway with their lifelong group of friends. So it's this big group of friends, and they all go every year to this house. But this couple has not told their friends that they've been split up for 5 months. And in that 5 months, they have been no contact. And so they are invited separately, and they haven't even been living in the same state, living in separate states. So they've been invited separately to the house, and the chick rocks up and she's like, "Oh my God, Wynn's here. What are you doing here?" And he's like, I had to come because they've got a big announcement and we have to be here for our friends. So let's just suck it up and pretend to be a couple. Okay, so whilst I do enjoy Emily Henry's writing, I did enjoy my time. It was very easy to read. I liked the flashbacks to how they got together, so you could see they were friends first and then became lovers. It was a slow build up. There was a lot of flirting and tension and banter, and that was amazing. The whole premise of this book is miscommunication, and when I say miscommunication, I also mean no communication. So I don't really love that. This is ridiculous. These guys are idiots. These guys are idiots. You're telling me that they spent all these years together, they're engaged, they break up on the phone in 4 minutes, and neither of them wanted to discuss it a bit more. You know what I mean? The chick just goes along with it. Oh, okay, we're broken up now. She doesn't even understand the reason. Okay, she doesn't understand why he's breaking up with her, but she doesn't talk to him about it. She just accepts it, and they ship each other their stuff without talking to each other, and that's it. And I'm like, what? I'm sorry, but in this day and age, I don't think anybody is breaking up like that and basically just ghosting each other after being in a very, very long relationship, after having the fact that they have the same friend group, okay? And then on top of that, they both decide not to tell anybody for 5 months. They're just living a lie. Okay, so because of that, that was just too stupid for me. So I just couldn't accept it. I couldn't swallow that. And I was like, this is just dumb. This is just dumb. You guys are dumb. So I've given it 3.5 stars. It hinged on that. And that was just, when they talk about it at the end, it didn't make it better. You know, the explanations didn't make it better. So this is a bit of a letdown. I still enjoy myself. 3.5 stars is still good. I still enjoy myself. I still read it in one sitting, but the reason for their separation is just idiotic, and it's not justified. You know, a simple conversation would have fixed this all up. So like I said, in the past, in the 90s and early 2000s, when no one knew how to communicate and we didn't have multiple avenues of reaching each other, this could be believable. But in today's world, where a lot of people too also go to therapy, you know what I mean? Like, neither of these people also went to therapy, because I'm pretty sure the therapist would be like, you need to have a conversation. But anyway, that was Happy Place by Emily Henry. So the next book was Beneath the Sugar Sky. This is a third in the Wayward children's series by Seanan and McGuire. This one I've decided to give 3.5 stars. With this series in general, it's beautifully written. The writing is wonderful. It's full of a lot of really profound things and statements and epiphanies and sentences. The author's very quotable. The world is fascinating. So in this world, in this series, children who are very lonely or living dissatisfied lives stumble upon these doors, and these doors take them into these other lands that are what the children need for most of the children. And these children grow and change, and then one day suddenly they're spat back out. And when they come back out to their real world, most of them can't assimilate back in. They just want to go back to this other world. They no longer have any sort of connection to any of the people here. And so most of these children are then sent to this Wayward home for children who've gone through doors because they just refuse to step back into society. I just had to move it over so you can see Sylvie. So, and some of these worlds are quite horrific, to be honest, but the kids like them. For whatever reason, they feel like themselves there. They feel at home there. So in this particular book, we're taken to the land of confection, which is a nonsense world. There's also worlds that have more reason, more logic, more nonsense. There's a whole structure. There's a lot of world building in these books. And they go there to sort of bring someone back to life. So in these books too, there's lots of queer rep, lots of like non-binary, gay, lesbian, trans, everything is done. There's also plus size rep and disability and like, you know what I mean? They're quite diverse. This series is quite diverse. For whatever reason though, this has all of the ingredients to be a 5-star series for me. And yet there's just something missing, and I honestly don't know what it is. I like the characters, I like the storytelling, I like the pacing, I like the worlds, but there's just something just not quite there to get me to that 5-star area. I'm still going to continue with the series because it's really interesting and it's a different world and it's fascinating. But yeah, I just don't understand why they're not 5 stars. I don't get, I'm like, what's missing for me? But anyway, this was a 3.5-star read. I still enjoyed it. And it was nice too to see him to once again visit some characters from some of the previous books as well. They crisscross over a little bit, which is fun. So those were all of the books that I read this week. I had a pretty good reading week, so that was a lot of fun. It was cool to change up how I pick my books as well. That is definitely more interesting. It keeps it more fresh for me. I sometimes just get decision fatigue. I don't know which one. I'll go and I'll back and forth. This was just very easy. Top and bottom rated. It didn't really make a huge amount of difference in terms of whether or not I enjoyed the books. So for me, I know that myself, the ratings that are on Goodreads just do not tend to reflect what I'm going to rate a book. I am, I guess, a bit of an outlier with my ratings. I don't really give a lot of 5 stars. And look, I do think that is because I have read tens of thousands of books in my lifetime. I read around 300 books a year, and I've been doing that since I was like a 7-year-old child, just read. So I think that might make me a bit more cynical. I don't want to say cynical, it's just, I don't know. I know what a 5-star feels like to me, and it doesn't happen too often. So I find that for a lot of the highly rated books, I'm almost never in the bandwagon, so to speak. Sometimes I am, but not often. And then the same thing for low rated books. I have read some books that I have loved and they've had less than 3-star ratings on Goodreads. It really is just, I think books are so personal because of our whole lives. The way we view things, the lens through which we view it is based on our millions of life experiences all rolled into one. So whilst there might be, you know, a general mean curve of whether a book is considered good by the populace, I really, when you're choosing to read books, I wouldn't pay too much attention to the average rating. So I'm also going to go back into seeing if Goodreads can recommend me books now that it's just got more and more books adding to my algorithm of what I've liked, what I've rated highly. But I don't know how they structure their recommendations, if they're just basing it, what they're basing it on. But I also find, for me, the best way to find books I like is when I find other booktubers who have very similar tastes. So if I find a booktuber who is highly rated the same books as me, and also who has disliked the same books, when they find one they love, it's very likely that I also love it. So for me, the best really form of recommendations is booktubers more than anything else. So I will leave it there. I will see you next week, and I hope that wherever you are having an amazing morning, afternoon, or evening. And as always, stay wild, Star Child.